Wait for some people to tune in. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the first live of season 2020. It's been a long time coming. I've kind of been a bit busy, a bit off the boil the last few months, just, enjoying the preseason, kind of enjoying the time off and dissecting 2019, the trades, all the different things that have been happening at the club. And yeah, I thought tonight was a good night to get back into it. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat. To get back into the swing of things, to get the lives going again. 1 week until we play Hawthorn in the Marsh series, and I thought we've got to kick the season off before that. Talk about everything that's been happening in the last couple of months, how the boys are going in pre-season. They had their Intra-club today, and that, by all reports, was a success with a lot of good performances from players that we expect a lot from this year. The AFLW in their first game on the weekend, I went along and I thought that was fantastic. They didn't get the points, but they really put on a good show, and I'm excited for the season ahead there. And to have a team in AFLW is great because, to be honest, haven't really supported AFLW that much up until now. And with the St Kilda girls introduced this year, I'm super keen for it. But yeah, in terms of where the club's at and how I'm feeling about 2020, I am as keen as anyone for the season to start. I feel like, it's easy to kind of just drift away November, December. But when you get to late January and you get to, like particularly this time in February, when you know that it's just over a month until round one starts, that's when the butterflies kick in. That's when you start to get a bit excited and a bit frustrated because you just want time to start speeding up. You want everything to just happen fast, and it can't, and you got to get through work. And, I'm really just hanging for round one, guys, and it's killing me. But until then, there's a bit to talk about. The AFLW on the weekend, I went along and another 8,000 Saints turned up, and I thought that was fantastic. The girls, even though they didn't win, I thought the performance was admirable. And apart from the first term where it was 4-1, I think it ended up finishing 6-2 in the end to the Dogs, who were supposed to be a decent team this year. I was pretty happy with what I saw. A lot of the men's players were walking around there and supporting the supporters and just chatting to everyone, and just the vibe around the club, just the environment and the positivity that Brett Ratton and the new coaches in Jarry Ruffhead, McGlynn, all these guys that have come on board recently, that environment and that feeling they've brought to the club, it's amazing. And it's funny how, how negative we were late last year and how, upset we were when Richo was coach and the performances, and we just didn't see where this club was going. We couldn't really get excited about anything. And then since then, we've turned things around faster than I could have imagined, in terms of the environment. We're up to, I think, 37 or 38,000 members now. We're actually on target to get over 50,000 members for the year, which would be a record, the highest we've ever had. I think our highest to this point was around 46 or 47,000, and that's when we're making grand finals. So the fact that we can get 50 this year, with limited sort of expectation, I mean, I think most of us think we can challenge for the 8 with the team that we have if we can keep them all in the park. But it's just an amazing feat. And to think that it could just get better and better from here with the performances, and if we can get the Hunter Clarks and the Greshams and the Rowan Marshalls, the Josh Battles, Nick Hines, we can get all these players, Max King, who is apparently outstanding today in the Intra-club. We can get all of them singing really well and gelling and just maturing together. We're going to be a pretty good team. And I'm super excited. I don't think I've been this excited for a season, I'm going to say, since, 2010, since maybe 2011. I don't know what the feeling is, but it's, I was explaining this to a friend of mine last week, and they, saying every year, you're excited every year, what difference is it this year? And I was like, because things actually happened. Actions have actually backed the excitement. So, usually you just get excited because it's a new season and you don't know what's going to happen, but you don't really have any proof. But this year, I'm excited because I don't know what's going to happen, but there is proof that there's been change, and significant change, and exciting change. And that's why I'm genuinely excited, as opposed to just kind of that shallow excitement of, oh, it's a new season, I guess I'm excited. This year, it's, bringing in the Brad Hills, the Dougal Howards, the Paddy Riders, the Zach Jones. We've got Max King training the house down, Dylan Roberton training the house down, Jaron Geary training the house down, Dan Hanbury, in Heath, what people say is close to his career best form, or in terms of his fitness, that's the sort of stuff that's coming out of the club. And new coach in Brett Ratton, we've got Jared Roughhead. There's a lot of positivity, and the only thing left is to put it on the field and to get the results. And, up until, for this point, that's all we've got. We've got the preseason games to deal with it and to see what we can do. But until we really come out in round one and give it that full 110%, 150%, we don't know. And that's kind of frustrating. But it's also really exciting because there's some concrete foundation that we haven't had for a long time in terms of stability with the club. And there's just some sort of vision with Ratton. He's not just doing this for a one-off sort of year. He's there to really create a different culture, a different club completely. And we haven't had a coach come in and do that. We've had a coach, coaches come and go where they're just kind of there to paper over the cracks, get a few early draft picks, and no expectation and no real drive to think harder, think more on a club scale and not just a team scale. And Ratton's fully in the club scale, and I'm all for that, because that's going to fix a lot of problems that we probably didn't even notice, that we as supporters don't see. We see a lot of the on-field results, but he'll see a lot of the admin results and the financials and the future stability of the club. And I think, we've got a really good coach there to take us on board. But enough about that sort of rant. I thought, I'd do one today. The Intra-club was on. I don't know if any of you guys got to see a lot of the Insta stories, but I had a little friend of mine go down there and sneak some vision and write up a little bit of a review on some of the players and how they went. So I'll share that with you guys. You comment and tell me who you're excited about or any questions that you have, and we'll just have a chat. In terms of some of the top players for the session, Ben Long, he says absolutely tearing it up. He played off centre half back, and I posted during the week that that's something that the club's trying to trial. We've got a lot of small forwards. We've got, Jade Gresham. We've got Jack Loney. We've got a lot of players now that can play that small forward. Dan Butler's coming from Richmond, so that position, Dean Kent, Matty Parker, Nick Hind, there's a lot of players that can play that forward role. Ben Long's always been that sort of player that we know he's got the skill. He's got the foot skills. He can mark. He can kick. He's fast. He's ferocious on the tackle. He's put a bit of beef on now, and the coaches think that, instead of him trying to find the ball, they think that it's probably best that they give him a role that the ball can just find him, because positioning in the forward line is very difficult. You really need to be smart in that aspect of the game. In terms of centre half back, we saw with Hunter Clark, it turned him into a new player, and they're trialling that with Ben Long, and from all reports, he's killing it. You're watching the ball come into the back 50. You're not having to point and go, I want the ball there. You're not dictating where the ball goes. You're really just trying to follow your opponent, disarm the ball from getting to them. And it's an easy task. And I think that's the beauty of good coaching, is giving players really simple goals that make a big difference in the result. And I think having Ben Long and basically telling him, negate your opponent and rebound off halfback when the ball comes into the 50, I think that's invaluable, and that's something that we haven't given him. We've given him probably more complicated game plan, and I think that's a thing that I've heard internally that a lot of the players thought of the previous coach, and that, he kind of compressed their skills. He was too busy trying to worry about stopping the opponents and worry about making mistakes than to take risks and take the game on and fight for the game and try and win. And I think Ratton's the opposite, where we might be more reckless with the ball, who knows, but we might score 5 to 6 goals more and be in games longer. So it's something that remains to be seen until we actually play, but that's the sort of approach that I think might be happening. The next one was Ryan Abbott, so the new ruckman that we got from Geelong. He said that he's holding his own against Marshall, and I watched a lot of the Intra-club as well today, and I thought that he was pretty good. for a second ruckman to have him and compete really well against Rowan Marshall, who I think is going to be top 3, top 4 ruckman in the league by the end of the year, if he's not already ranked that. I think, Ryan Abbott's going to be pretty handy to have. Dylan Roberton was another one. He said Roberton just being Roberton. He was excellent at reading the playoff halfback as usual and just rebounding. So the fact that he's just come in and he's just performing the way that we expect from him and the way that he almost got an All-Australian nod in 2017, it's, for me, it's almost the biggest signing of the summer, Dylan Roberton being back and fit. We've got Brad Hill, we've got all these players that we're really excited about, but people forget about players like Dylan Roberton who have got so much to offer and just haven't been able to get on the park. So the fact that he can get on the park and join Dougal Howard, join Jake Carlisle, Cal Wilkie, Nick Caulfield potentially playing in that back half as well, that's looking like a pretty strong nucleus. And forget, we've got Joyce as well, who performed really well in the Intra-club, so he's going to be pushing for a position, as well as Nathan Brown, who last year was Mr. Reliable and pretty much took any big forward and negated them. The fact that we've got those options is amazing. So I'm really happy with the way the backline's looking, and it's the strongest it's looked in a long time. Dan Butler, he said, was very impressive early on, putting a lot of pressure on the ball carrier. And I think that's the thing with Dan Butler is he's come from that Richmond background where they're just going to be going, his full focus is going to be get the ball, get the guy with the ball, and I think, we haven't had that sort of pressure forward for a long time. We've had, Jack Loney, but he's a bit more on the smaller side. He's a bit more on the finesse. Jade Gresham, we've taken out of the forward line occasionally. When he goes back, he's not the hunter, but he's the finisher. Matty Parker is kind of the hunter, but I think Dan Butler coming from that Richmond, he's going to be really important in terms of that forward pressure and educating the rest of the forwards on exactly how the forward structure should work, because he's a premiership, he's a 2017 premiership player for Richmond, so that's something none of our players have experienced apart from Dan Hanbury. So that sort of experience is really important. He said Josh Battle was playing heavily between the two arcs, so roaming between the two arcs, and that's something that the coaches have flagged. This season, they've flagged that they want to have him more as that utility, more of that potential Brendan Goddard 2.0, that, that player that can play anywhere and play well. They're going to trial him on the wing. He's going to play forward. We can expect him back. I think his positioning per game is going to be very reliant and dictated on the opponent and the strengths of the opponent. So if the opponent's got a good forward line, we might play him more back. If they don't, we can probably afford to put him forward and put pressure on them. If we need bigger support in the midfield, if they've got big mids, throw him, in the middle, play him in the center even, see if he can get some clearances, because they think he can really be a good all-round player. And they wouldn't just be saying that for the sake of it. He's clearly showed something at training where they think that he's got multiple skills and he's not set for just one position. And it's good to have those sort of utilities. It's really important to have flexibility in a team. Max King. Now, I don't even really need to read the note, but I'll say it anyway. He said Max King is going to be a nightmare for opposition backlines, first hands on the footy every single time. And I was watching a lot of the highlights on Max King, and the delivery, first of all, was great. Like, he was leading really well, but the delivery for him was spot on, and so it's good to see the disposal. Although Intra-club, less pressure, we know that. I know that's what people are going to say. They were just playing against each other, so they're not going to go hard, but they do go hard. But obviously remains to be seen against real AFL opponents. But apparently he was excellent. He kicked 4 goals. He had 7 opportunities. Took a lot of big contested marks. He was moving well and moving fast, and he's the sort of player that is similar to Nick Riewoldt, where he's going to beat players for work rate, but he's going to beat them for talent, and he's going to beat them for pace and height. And that's a scary, scary combination to have, that he can not only have the talent above all, most backmen, but the fact that he's going to work harder than all of them, it's going to get him more ball than he needs. And it's going to be really, really good to see, our midfield streaming forward and seeing someone like Max King leading and Tim Membry causing other problems. And he was the other one that was super impressive. He said, Membry, ultra impressive, wouldn't be out of place as captain, really talkative on the field, really controlled the forward line and helped players into position. And always knew when he needed to be. And the number of marks that he took against his teammates, where he was 1 on 5 and he just does the whole, the usual, just the one jump grab. He does that better than anyone in the AFL. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And And so I'm super excited to see how he goes. I know some AFL articles think that, he might have a down season without Josh Bruce there, but I think he's going to have an up season. I think he's going to be fine. He plays big. People think that he's not good enough because he's not big enough. He doesn't need to be big enough. He's perfectly fine the way he is. He's got a better leap than most tall forwards. He's got a better kick than them. He's got a better mark than them, and he's mobile, and that's dangerous for any defender to play on him because even when the ball hits the ground, he's going to be dangerous. And the last one he wrote a note on was Hanbury. He said, very vocal and moving well, setting things up well in the guts. And that's another thing I noticed was Dan Hanbury. And that's something that a lot of media people have noticed when they've gone to the training sessions, that he's moving better than he has in the last 5 or 6 years. He's training the house down, hasn't missed a beat, and he's looking fit as a fiddle and ready to go for the season. And the fact that we only got 5 games out of him last year really hurt us. And, missing Jack Stephen, Dunstan in and out of the team, Hunter Clark in and out of the team, midfield not really gelling until late in the season. I think having Hanbury there for 5 games hurt us, and I think having him this fit already means, we're in for a good year. If we can get the likes of Jack Steele, Dan Hanbury, Brad Hill, Dunstan, Hunter Clark, Jade Gresham, Seb Ross. We've got Zach Jones running through the midfield now. We've got some serious Rowan Marshall in there. We've got some serious depth there, and Jack Billings. It's crazy that how quickly things turn around, but it's just good recruiting, it's good training, good management, and they've got the team primed for a really good season. I'll go through some of your comments. Some people have commented, so I'll flick through those now, and let's see what you guys are thinking. Pete says, where do you honestly feel we will finish on the ladder this season? Brisbane went from 17th to 2nd in 1 year. What were we last season? 11th or 12th or 13th? I think 13th maybe. I really, truly believe that if we can have a pretty, injury-free season, we were really hard done by last year in terms of the injuries. I think, if we can get something, that's 50% better off, less long-term, less key position injuries, I'm really hoping. I'm sharing a goal of top 8. I really don't care where in the top 8. I just want to make September. I want to be challenging for the top 8 come round 19-20. I do not want the season to be a foregone conclusion where we know after round 16, the last 7 weeks, there's no chance of making finals, and then you just don't enjoy it. You go to the games, but there's no end goal there. I want us to be chasing something. I want them to be hungry all season. So I think top 8 is a genuine chance. Teams will drop out. I think there are teams in the top 8 from last year. I think Geelong might drop out. I think maybe not, but they're not going to be as good as they were. I think that Brisbane could have a lull. Melbourne did the same thing the year before and made a prelim. They had a lull. So there's going to be teams that just drop out. And if we're there to take up a position, I'm going to be very happy about that. Luke says, we've started off well. We started off well last season, but it's a long year. That's true. We were, 4-1, and then after that we were, winless for about 5 or 6 games. That's very true. It's a result-based game, and you're as good as your win-loss record, I say. And we haven't had a good one in the last 5 or 6 years, but I think that the way we're going, if we can win 9 games like we did last season, with the team we've got now, with the coaching and the fitness and just the positive energy we've got, there's no reason why we can't win over 12 games. And that, to me, makes finals. So if we can get to 12 games, you're pretty much in a top 8 position of thereabouts. And I definitely think with the team we've got, we're 3 games better off than what we were last season. We've just got to get it on the board. Mark says, hey, mate, who do you think will bring the house down? I think Clark. Mate, imagine Marvel Stadium when Max King kicks his first goal. Imagine when he takes a clunk on the lead and kicks it from 50 and he kicks his first bag. That's the stuff that's going to bring the house down. And that, Brad Hill playing is going to be exciting, but seeing the number 12 back out there and in the position we want him to be, and so much anticipation with Max King over the last year because he didn't play last year, I think that 100% it's going to be players like Max King that bring the house down, and, I can't wait for that. Very hopeful this year. Go Saints. Joe says, impossible is nothing. Go, you mighty Saints. Jamie says, I'm interested to see who's in our best 22. Seems to be a lot of competition for spots, which is good, especially with no injuries. I was thinking that the other day, Jamie. I was thinking, the players like Shane Savage, do they make it in our back line? It's going to be hard to fit players like that. Is Jack Sinclair on the chopping block, with some of the midfield options we've got. Jack Bytel is a chance to play a lot this year. He's put on a lot of muscle. He's gotten bigger. He's ready for the AFL. He trained really well last season, but he was injured, so couldn't play. And he's trained really well this season, and he's, pretty fit and ready to go. So there's players like that, I think Sandringham's going to be fielding a very strong team week in, week out because of, the amount of good players we're going to be keeping out. And I think that's just competition for spots. Players are going to be trying really hard in Sandy to get into the firsts. And I think players are going to be trying really bloody hard in the first to make sure they don't get dropped and miss out on any game, because this team could do anything and you don't want to miss out. The worst part is, Dan Butler could is a good example. He was good, dropped off at 5%. Castagna plays all of last year, wins a premiership. Could have been a 2-time premiership player in 3 years, but performance is everything, and he dropped off for that little bit. And when you're a good club, you've got players in the wings ready to take the spot, and that's what happens. So I think we're, getting to that position where we're going to get players, options in every line, and if you don't perform, you go to Sandy and you got to fight for a spot back in the team, basically. Emmett says, I'm excited about Jones, Ryder, Butler, Hill, and Howard. They have a lot of great experience in their previous clubs, and I think they can contribute a lot to the Saints Footy Club. 100%. We had a need for another ruckman. For Marshall, we brought in Ryder, who I think primarily will play forward. I don't think he'll take much of the ruck off Marshall unless he absolutely needs to. I think Jones helps us with pace. Butler with that premiership experience and forward pressure. Brad Hill, obviously, superstar of the competition, one of the best wingmen in the league, so getting him was a no-brainer. And Howard, another void in the back line, fast, big intercept backman who's young and one of the most exciting defenders in the league that Port Adelaide gave us for nothing for a stupid reason. So happy to take him. Thank you for that. But we met a need with every player, and even though every player is super exciting on paper, the fact that they fill a need and they fill a gap that we've had for years is really exciting. So I can't wait to see them all gel together. Caroline says would be great to see Dylan playing again. I can't wait for Dylan Robertson to play again. He's one player that I've always thought could be captain of the team. He's always been the best clubman. He's won that award. He's Mr. St Kilda in my eyes. And I think, he's going to carry that back line and carry the spirit of the club with, Jaron Geary being back as well. So I'm super excited for Robbo to be back after a couple of years out. Zame says, who's going to kick the biggest bag? Biggest bag. Jeez. I think Tim Membry's probably going to kick our biggest bag. It wouldn't surprise me if Gresh does. He's always good for a bag of 6. He's done that twice against Richmond, so I could easily see him doing that. But I'd like to think Tim Membry. But the saint in me says Max King. I want Max King to kick 7 against Collingwood. That would be fucking beautiful. Chris says if Joyce gets a game, then we're going backwards. Hard to tell, Chris. Apparently Joyce has been playing really well. He's been training really well, played really well today in the Intra-club, and his disposal was significantly improved. So that was one thing that held him back. But if he can fix that, there's every chance that he can be a good player for us. Daniel Klomp says, haven't heard much about Loney for a while. Loney, he played today. He did what he needed to do. He was clean. He tackled. He kicked a couple of goals. He does a few little cheeky things along the way, but he's just got to keep doing what he did last year, and he'll be fine. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of positions, up for grabs in that forward line, but I think for now he's probably playing round 1, but it could change. So it really does depend on his performances in the Marsh series and the charity game against Hawthorn to really knuckle down on that position. Brad Hill is a premiership player, bad miss bud, but early days, so I will forgive. I did say Brad Hill's a premiership player. Oh, maybe I didn't, but he's 100% a premiership player. And and he's done that many times with Hawthorn. So the fact that he's got that experience as well is going to be very important for us. But I think just having him on the ground will make players stand taller. I think all of these new signings are going to make the team stand taller when they run out of the race, run onto the field and look around and go, all right, let's do this. We've got a team here that's going to hurt these teams. And I think Ratton's built a team where he's ready to unleash it, and he just wants to make Marvel Stadium a fortress again. Teams come there, and we want to make sure that they're in for a long day, basically. I remember the days 09 and 10, 08, 5, pretty much from 05 to 10. The Dome of Doom, we called it, if you guys remember, Telstra Dome, where, we knew the teams were going to come and then we're going to get smashed, and G-Train was going to kick 10 on them. That was almost a certainty that was going to happen. Nick Riddle was going to have 20 marks, G-Train was going to kick 8 or 9, and we were going to win by 10 goals. And that's how it happened in those times. So I think getting back to that sort of fortress would be amazing if we can, because I know that winning away from home has been a struggle for us recently. So winning a lot of games at home is going to be the goal. Obviously, the first goal for this year, win, over 70% of our home games, and you're a chance of finals, and then you pinch a few away from home, and you're a big chance. King, Membry, Ryder, and Marshall, some serious tall timber, 100%. That's going to be a lot of aerial power that we've got. And then you throw with Dougal, Howard, Jake, Carlisle in the back line. There's a lot of dukes there, a lot of intercept marks that hopefully will be had, and then that means a lot of rebounds into the forward line from the back 50. Tyler says, Bytel looking the goods, 100%. One of the, the quiet ones that no one talks about, but I think he could actually be the big win for the season if we can get him playing in the middle. He's supposed to be a very good in and under sort of player. Jake says, thoughts on the China game? Shouldn't play it there. That's pretty much that's the gist of it. I'd love to be able to get a game at Moorabbin, but I don't know if Port Adelaide want that. I know that the MCG in Melbourne, Marvel Stadium, are taken for the Saturday and Sunday games. St Kilda's potentially tossing up an idea of playing the Monday night at Marvel Stadiums or the Thursday night before that round. So it depends on what the AFL schedule looks like and how they want to fit it. But I know that we've suggested potentially trying a game at Moorabbin again for AFL points. Would need to, put in grandstands for the extra crowd capacity. But if Port Adelaide don't want to do that, then Marvel Stadium's the only other option. And that'll have to be outside of Saturday and Sunday and Friday night, obviously, if they want to do it. Elaine says, hi, China would be an unwise decision, in my opinion. I think it would be too. I was so close pre-season to just buying really cheap tickets to China and getting a hotel around that time, and then going, obviously, when the game was on. I think it's in June or July. I'm really glad I didn't do that now. Would have been a waste of money. China game won't happen. Even Formula One has been postponed, says Gary Walker. Oh, there you go. Paul, thoughts on Luke Dunstan becoming a grade mid? I thought Dunstan was long gone last year. I thought he was going to Adelaide. I thought we were going to trade him. And I thought that was going to be it. But he knuckled down, he stuck around, and the second half of his season last year was pretty exceptional. I thought he was really good in and under. His disposal obviously has always needed a bit of work, but you can't question his fitness. You can't question him going in and under and throwing his body on the line. And I think having a big body like him along with Jack Steele in the middle is super important, and they can feed the likes of Seb Ross and Hunter Clark and Brad Hill, Zach Jones, all of them on the outside, Gresh, help them feed to those sort of running players. You always need the players in the middle. So you get rid of Luke Dunstan, I think that you're missing a big body in the middle. So the fact that we've maintained him and kept him and hopefully getting the best out of him this year is going to be really important for us. Does Matty Parker get a spot round one? That's a really good question, Tom. In my team right now, I don't think he does. If he does, he sneaks onto the bench. He'd make emergencies, but for now, I don't think he's in my round one team. But I could be wrong. We'll see. Rory says, depth is good. but bar the addition of Hill, the depth added is more blue collar. We are desperate for a number of the 21 to 25-year-olds to jump up to the elite level this year. Otherwise, we'll just continue to be middling 9th to 14th type team. I agree with that, 100%. To be fair, I think that Dougal Howard, you can't label him blue collar just yet. He's an up-and-coming gun defender, and that's not blue collar in my eyes. He could be elite. Zach Jones, blue collar, but he's got that bit of X factor that we need. I think Paddy Ryder's there to fill a void, and Dan Butler is probably the easy one to label blue collar, but I think everyone else is a bit better than that. But you're right, we've got, it's the bracket of Hunter Clark, Jack Steele, Rowan Marshall, Tim Membry, Jade Gresham, Nick Coffield, these sort of players that are coming into their own now that we really want them to take over and take ownership of this team, because there's not a lot of old heads there anymore. Geary, Nathan Brown, there's a few there that are in their 30s, but most of them aren't. And that's great. We've got one of the strongest, core 21 to 25-year-old brackets in the league. And I think that's the bracket that took Brisbane to the next level. They all went really well. But, in the terms of the Hipwoods and the Rainers, all those young players doing really well, on top of obviously getting Lockie Neal. So we get Brad Hill. Maybe that helps us kind of re-energize that bracket and they all start lifting. If that happens and there's a wave of players that hit career best form at the same time, peak at the same time, that's when, premierships can be won. So I'm not saying we're going to win a flag this year, but I'm saying that you could climb pretty fast. Melbourne did it a few years ago and got a prelim. Brisbane did it this year and got into second place and finals. No reason why we can't do something similar. What position did Max King play today? Primarily just played full forward, leading out of the square. Didn't move much outside of the 50 to 60 meter arc, I'd say. Kind of owned that area. Membry was the one that moves around a lot, and I think we'll see that. Max King close to goal with the height that he's got is going to scare any defender, put it on his head, and we're going to get a lot of easy goals from him out of the goal square. And Adams just answered there. He was permanent full forward. Jesse says, looking at the ins this year is crazy. People still forget about Hanbury. He will be awesome this year, 100%. You look at the trades we've made and then you forget about all these other players that have come in and have done a really good job. Tyler, Hind, Loney Butler will be electric. Can't wait for another season of Hind. He was, pretty good in the games that he played last year, but another season under his belt. And I think he's going to cause more problems. Stephen says King will kick 120 goals this year. Just slight exaggeration there. And Boren says, I think Max King at full back would be amazing. He has the height for it, and I don't think we should waste his skill in the forward line. I'm hoping that's a troll question or a troll statement, because we've got enough in the back line, and I think having Max King forward and kicking 50 goals a season is exactly where I want him. If we had his brother Ben King, you could do something like that, but we don't. Hopefully we do in the future. I know that that's something that the club's going to be looking at, but until then, Max King forward. You're not going to have a number 12 player, with Nick Riewold's old number playing fullback. You're going to be playing him in the forward line, kicking match-winning goals. That's exactly where I want him. That's exactly what I want to see. That's pretty much. There's a few more questions actually. What about Paddy Ryder? Haven't seen much of Paddy Ryder. I'm not sure if I can't remember seeing him today. I'm not sure if he played or not. I have to check on that. But I think Paddy Ryder's probably going to play more forward than we think. I think that Rowan Marshall might rest forward occasionally, but I think Paddy Ryder's definitely going to be the more permanent forward. And I think, he's dropped about 7 or 8 kilos, he reckons. He's up to about 93 kilos, which is the lightest he's been since his 3rd or 4th year at, his early days at Essendon. So if he's dropped that much weight and he's feeling lighter, which he says he is, and he's training well, then, it's great to see him and all these other players just doing that extra just to get the best out of themselves. And hopefully come the start of the year, and even next week against Hawthorn in the Marsh Community Series, we see that. Leone says, go Saints, we have missed you. Thanks, Leone. Sam says, is Carlisle a lock in the back? I'm saying it. I think Carlisle's a lock in the back line. We need him. He was frustrating last season with some of the stuff that he did in terms of discipline, in terms of not looking like he was trying. But even he admitted that he was going through this, just this mental phase, and he's kind of, after, triggering his contract, he's found himself again, and he's training well, and he's actually got a lot of excitement for the club. And so that'll hopefully channel into the forward line, into the season, and into his leadership role. I think he's really important in that back line. I think him and Robbo are going to be in charge there with Geary, and kind of just, be the real level-headed sort of players. We can't afford him and all those other guys who are, the younger players are looking to as kind of their heroes or the guidance on the field in pressure times. We don't need to see them cracking. We need him to be the one that's really level-headed and in control of the situation. Brad says, yeah, for sure, Saints top 4. Sean says, how did Ben Long look in the back line? Ben Long looked amazing in the back line. He looks calm. He looks like he should have played there from the first game he debuted in. People forget he played in the Footscray or the Bulldogs VFL team, and he played at centre-half back in their premiership team, I'm pretty sure. So he's really comfortable there. That's kind of where he started and where they got the best out of him. So the fact that, Brett Ryan's seen that and said, well, I'm just going to put you back in that position that you played so well in, pretty, looks to us like a stroke of genius, but to them internally, Brett Ryan's probably thinking, oh, it's a pretty easy decision to make. So, that's kind of how you get the best out of players. You play them in the position that they're comfortable in, they get the best out of them. We might think that Richo might have wanted him to become a good small forward. Doesn't work out. Richo's not there. Brett Ratton goes, well, you've got all the skills for a good centre-half, good back flanker, half-back flanker that can rebound and give us good ball use and penetration. Trial you there, see what happens. And so far, so good. Jesse Brown says, who's quicker, Hind or Hill? Don't think anyone can stop those two together running into the 50. I'm probably going to say that Nick Hind's probably faster, but I think maybe Brad Hill from, on the first 10 meters, apparently his, acceleration is electric, but I think maybe Nick Hind's probably got him on the, say the 100-meter sort of distance, but in game, you probably want that 10 to 15-meter burst and then the kick, and Brad Hill does that better than anyone. He gets away from the defender, composes himself, and then 9 times out of 10 hits a target on the lead. So sometimes I have to pinch myself thinking, we've got Brad Hill, we've actually nailed a trade period. It doesn't seem like something we've done in my life. We usually trade out players and get draft picks and then hope that they go well in 4 years' time, but we've really traded for the now, and we want players to come in and do a job now. We don't want to wait 2-3 years. We want to get results on the board in 2020. So I'm super excited for that. I might leave it there, guys. It's been about 40 minutes. But if you have any other questions on this, I'll try and get these videos going a bit more as the season goes on. Unfortunately, I can't make it to the damn Marsh game next week. I'm preoccupied elsewhere, but I know the game's at 7:10 and my commitment doesn't start until a bit later, so I'll be able to watch the game, and I may not do a post-game review on it, but I might do one the next day or the day that weekend after watching the replay and get back to you on that. But for the games after that, it'll be Saints TV as usual. You'll get the previews on the Thursday night when the teams come out, and then you'll get the match reviews immediately after the game, faster than any other footy channel on the internet. You'll get the review and my thoughts, and we can discuss it live minutes after the game. So hopefully you're excited for the new season. I'm so pumped for it, guys. Haven't been this excited for a season in my life, and the fact that we've got a team now that can really push the good teams when they play well. It's really exciting, and I love that opposition supporters aren't talking about St Kilda thinking they're shit. They're actually kind of half worried, like, geez, we don't know what this team's going to do. So I'm hoping that we come out round 1 against North and we fucking smash them. 10 goals. Imagine that. Imagine Max King kicking 5 on debut and we win by 60 points against North on Sunday in front of 40,000 people at Marvel. Talk about a dream start to a season. I've literally dreamt about results already, and they've all been wins. So I'm hoping that that continues and turns into something that's real. So until then, I'll probably just keep dreaming about it. But I hope you guys are excited too. I'm super excited for another year of Saints TV. Hopefully you're enjoying the content so far. It's a bit harder in the off season. There's not as much going on, but now with preseason heating up, intra-clubs happening, Marsh community games, and obviously don't forget AFLW this Sunday, I believe at 5:10, I think it is. I think they're playing in Adelaide against Adelaide, who are the reigning, I think they're the reigning premiers, are they? I think they are. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But they're a very good team, so make sure you tune in on Fox Footy and support the girls and cheer them on, and hopefully they can get their first win in the AFLW and for the Saints women's team in history, in their first win ever, and hear them sing the song. So make sure you tune into that. But until then, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and comment if you have any other questions, and I'll answer them when I can. Thanks, guys, and go Saints.